You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth is he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. Oh, feel it. Feel it, you feel it?
Faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
You're probably a bit confused right now. I broke the glass. It's all come back to me.
What is this?
That's my ship.
What?
Let me take it from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor. I'm a traveller in space and time. And that thing buried down there is called a TARDIS. Time and relative dimension in space. You're gonna love this.
Hey there, Station Who listeners, and welcome to another episode. Thank you guys for being here, and we've got a good one. We're going back to Big Finish, and we are looking at the fourth part of the Paternoster Gang. We are looking at Heritage Part 4. It's interesting. It wraps up the storyline all the way from the stuff that happened in the first stories of, you know, the first season, whatever you want to call it, for Big Finish, and goes all the way through. And it was very interesting to see Jenny, Strax, and Madame Vasta back, and some other characters that returned, and we will talk all about that in a few minutes. But, of course, we will be spoiling it, as we always like to say. You know, even though that's been out for, a year and a half now, we're still going to spoil it. So, but it should be a ton of fun. We got a great crew, of course. It's just going to be the three of us tonight, so let's say hey to Mike Gordon and Mary Ogle.
Howdy.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be here.
Yes, and of course, we want to have a chance for you guys to hop in also. So please write us feedback at ourstationwho.com. Definitely would love to hear from you, and we'll be seeing you guys live in a couple weeks. It's, well, not even a couple weeks. It's, as of recording, it's a week and a half. And so it's coming up real close. So it's pretty awesome. And we got a lot of things happening at Dragon Con, and we will tell you guys about that at the end of the show. So give you guys a chance to, you know, digest what we've got to talk about tonight, and we'll give you a nice dessert afterwards. So it'll be very nice. So we got a lot to hit on. So Doctor Who news right off the bat. Still not a ton of Doctor Who news. Nothing really. I'm almost expecting any day now. We're going to get hopefully a trailer for Jodie's last episode, at least, you know, for the centennial.
That would be nice.
So I really would like to, you know, see what happens with that. And, you know, I just want to see, you know, not be surprised completely. Oh, by the way, it's next week. You know, type thing. I think
Tomorrow.
it'll be on tomorrow, and you know, so the trailer should be out sooner than later. If it goes past like the second week in September, I'll be real shocked. I really will, because that's going to pretty much be just about a month from when it's airing. So, you know, hopefully we'll be able to do it and see it and get some information about it, because we don't really have any. There's been some great fan art out there about, you know, pictures of, you know, Jodie's doctors with the glowing hands or glowing eyes, and, you know, stuff like that. And also I downloaded, someone did an amazingly beautiful picture with Jodie's doctor in the center, and faded in the background was Dr. 7 and Dr. 5, and they had Tegan and Ace underneath of them, and then they showed Tegan and Ace from what they looked like in that little trailer that they did show. So it was really nicely done. So there's some cool stuff out there if you try to find it, but I'm waiting for the official stuff, folks. I really am. It should be a ton of fun. So otherwise, we got, you know, no real news about the 60th anniversary, like we said. We are getting a new Blu-ray set, though. We are getting the First Doctor is coming to Blu-ray, and we are going to be getting his second season. So that should be pretty darn awesome, because that's episodes like, you're going to get I think the Aztecs was in that season. I know.
That's such a good one.
And Dalek Invasion of Earth is in that one, because you're going to not only have the original crew, but you also then get Vicky, because Susan leaves in that season. So, and it's interesting. They actually announced that Maureen O'Brien will be reprising her role as Vicky in like the trailer for it. So I think that's pretty awesome that they're doing that. So
yeah, it's very strange, the order that they are releasing these. I think we've talked about it before. It just seems to be so random. Now with the second season, there's still some missing, right?
Yeah, there's a couple that are missing, and from what they're going to be doing, they're going to do the still images with the audio, which
gotcha.
That's what I want to buy. That's what I want to Blu-ray set. No.
Till the snaps
so
on Blu-ray.
It won't include any of the animated ones.
I would have to look to see what stories were in the second season, because I'm going to claim ignorance on this one and not play the know-it-all for once, and say what was in Doctor Who season 2. So, but I could look real quick. So if you guys want to talk and pretend you're being entertaining, I'll
well,
look
at this point I can't. I can't remember which ones were animated so far and which ones haven't been. So, so I don't know exactly. I think what Reign of Terror, is that in there, or is that the first season?
I'm looking right now, and we got Planet of the Giants, the Dalek Invasion of Earth, the Rescue, the Romans, the Web Planet, the Crusades, the Space Museum, the Chase, and the Time Meddler is where it ends.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't know enough about. I can't recall. I know we've reviewed some of those. A lot of them we haven't.
No, we have not yet.
As a matter of fact, I think in that whole set we've only reviewed 3 of the stories.
I know we've done Dalek,
starting with Dalek. Yep, and we did the Web Planet, and we did Time Meddler.
Yes,
and that's it. So everything else is new to us.
Exactly. So it should be interesting to see. They did say that basically 2 of the missing 2 episodes of the Crusades have been reconstructed using off-air photography and the original broadcast soundtrack, while the remaining episodes have been newly remastered for the best available sources. These classic adventures have never looked or sounded so good on home video. So, we'll see.
Well, okay.
Yes. I'll be curious to see.
I have very little interest in getting. I mean, I enjoy watching this first Doctor Adventures, but I don't feel the need to own them and rewatch them over and over again.
I'm a completist,
I think towards this is the second season, but even after once you lose Ian and Barbara, I just don't care for any of the First Doctor's companions after that.
Yeah, I can kind of agree. You had Stephen, and you had who sang in the Gunfighters, which was awesome, and you had Dodo.
Shudder.
Yeah.
You're making my case for me, actually. Thank you.
It's hard to top Ian and Barbara.
Yeah,
it is. Great. I mean, I'll put Susan in there too, but I mean, I guess I don't know if it's just so they're so iconic because they're the first, but I think they were just really good too. The dynamic chemistry between them and everything was just really solid, and it took them a long time to, in my opinion, to recapture that. I don't think they recapture that until, Jamie comes on board, really, with the second Doctor, and then that's the next companion that I think is really solid.
I could see that. I totally could see that. It's interesting though, because you had so much, interaction, between the first three, Susan, Barbara, and Ian, that it always felt like to me that they were trying to imitate in a lot of ways. Does that make sense? They were trying to find that chemistry again. And I agree with you when they said that you didn't have that, because you had Ben and Polly at the end, and
they were very bland.
Well, yeah. And I wasn't sad when they left, because they made it all the way they did make it into the second era of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel, I wasn't upset when they left during the Faceless Ones. And it was just like, yeah, okay, I don't feel so bad. So
yeah, I mean, I fully admit too, like we just pointed out, I have not seen a lot of episodes in this particular set that you're talking about. So it's possible that in watching these, I might discover something with companions there that I'm like, oh wow, these are actually a lot better than I thought. So it's possible, but
there are some good stories.
But it doesn't. But I don't. I don't know if there's been any sort of I assume, and I know that's what happens when you do that. But
yeah, we know that
they've done some sort of restoration just to make it look as good as possible. I know it's difficult and it's not film. It's it's that BBC video that just bleeds and looks awful. I don't know how that's going to look on Blu-ray, really. I doubt it'll look much better, but maybe. I don't know.
No, it's going to be interesting to see. And you know what? Let's, give it a hope. If it goes on sale at Amazon, I'll probably pick it up.
I might pick it up. I'm interested to hear the reviews of it.
Yeah, exactly.
If it sounds like it's worth it.
And exactly. It does have a lot of, like what we said, it does have a lot of stories that I haven't seen. So that is of interest to me as well. But I mean, since I have BritBox, there's, you're going to have to do a lot to convince me that
pry
it's
you
going to be
away
worth
from
it.
BritBox.
Yeah, exactly. to make me spend money on something, that's going to take up some space on my shelf.
No, exactly. I agree with that. So it'll be very interesting to see. Also, another bit of news, though. We did get an announcement that Doctor Who is going to be joining in with Magic the Gathering for fans of that game. And I haven't played Magic probably since I had my comic shop. So it's probably going on, 28 years, 30 years ago. And, it's interesting because I know there's tons of people that still have Magic tournaments. I know they have them at Dragon Con and stuff. And I'll be very curious to see what they do. And it's just not like one doctor popping in. All the doctors are popping in. So it's pretty neat to see. So have either of you guys ever played?
I have never played.
I have never played.
Gotcha. So that's why you guys are quiet, because
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's like I'm like, that's cool, I guess.
Well, it is cool. I mean, I've heard Magic the Gathering fans, and Doctor Who fans. The crossover is great.
No, I remember when I was living out in Seattle, they used to have like Wizards of the Coast stores and everything, because that's how popular Magic was. So it's pretty awesome. So yeah, definitely interesting to do that. And I know there's, you have even Lord of the Rings characters who could meet the Doctor now. But then again, some say, the Doctor was Merlin and Gandalf, so it's okay.
It's the ultimate crossover.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool. So yeah, so that's most of the Doctor Who news right now we have. Like I said, we'll talk about Dragon Con at the end of the show. So let's take a quick break, and we will be back in a moment, and we will be talking all about the Paternoster
Hey, Martha.
What?
Do you like nerd stuff?
I do.
And do you like adult beverages.
I super do.
Well, then you should join us with a drink.
With a drink!
With a drink. But first, let's talk nerdy. Clink!
On the ESO Network.
We'll see you
on Tuesday. Maybe next Tuesday.
Maybe.
Welcome back. Now we are going to be looking at Heritage 4, the fourth part of the Paternoster Gang audios. And we had 3 new episodes and stories for them to tell. We had Merry Christmas, Mr. Django, The Ghost Riders, and Rulers of Earth. It was interesting because this one, like I said at the beginning of the show, it ties everything up. It literally takes plots from the first 3 stories that they had and combines it and brings it all to a close. First thoughts, what did you guys think of this one compared to the other 3 that we reviewed?
You know, I actually found this one to be the weakest of the ones we've listened to.
Thank you. I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to say it.
Me too.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. But I mean, it's not that there weren't good parts, but it was not, the writing just did not strike me as well as the other 3. Especially, like, I enjoyed the first one the most, probably because Jago's in it. It was just nice to have Jago there and fun to have him interacting with the rest of the gang. But, you know, that's kind of a novelty thing. The stories were all kind of pedestrian, to be honest.
And there were parts where it wasn't even making sense at some points with the ending. You didn't know who was talking because you had, 3 different lizard people in this one?
Yes, there did seem to be a lot of lizard people.
And it would just seem real.
But I understand your confusion.
Yeah, and it was just like, and it was neat to see the character, because we had asked when they, introduced the other gang, the other Santaran human and
the Bloomsbury.
Exactly.
Yep.
And what happened to the
bunch?
Because we got some of them back in the last one we reviewed, but we didn't get the Silurian, and it was just interesting that she came back for this one. And I had a feeling that they would, especially if they were going to be tying up everything about, being because they touched on, Madame Vasta being possessed and everything, and, losing control in the last one. And so that just came full out in this one. And it just felt like the story was just too rushed and didn't make too much sense.
Yeah, I don't think rushed is the word you're looking for. I think a mess is what you're looking for.
Convoluted. Convoluted is the word I'm looking for.
No, that's too highfalutin. It was just a straight up effing mess. Okay. There's been a theme, I guess, in all of these stories, but it's been pretty loose. I mean, I don't think there's been a really set, strong mythological thread that's gone through all the sets, at least not that I can recall. And so for this to attempt to kind of wrap it up seems just not really necessary, because I think, the general theme has been, it seems like, a lot of the stories have dealt with things of items or events of the character's past, which makes, that's pretty interesting stuff. And this is really just 2 stories, right? It's the Christmas story, which is, I think, a fun Christmas special. I liked it. It was a nice, fun romp. A little too silly at times, but in an Addams Family kind of way. I kind of dug it, especially the stuff with Strax. But then when we get to the second one, there's some really kind of cool ideas there. The fact that the ink comes to life and the warning on the book is is not like, hey, this, if you read this, you'll get the warning. No, the warning on the book is like, don't open and read this book. Like, it's really like, I like that sort of switch up on it, and the fact that, you know, the book is there to keep the ink in, and the power in. And I liked all of that as far as concepts, but the execution was so poor, I think. And then it's really like a two-parter, but it's written by two different people, and it feels like it's written by two different people who didn't talk at all and didn't compare notes at all. You know, I think throwing in Vela just seems so like random, and it just was confusing because they really didn't reintroduce her. You just sort of hear her and they mention another, you know, lizard person or whatever, and you're kind of like, is this somebody new? That's why I understand your confusion, Mike, because I'm like, okay, how many? And then one of the other women sounded a kind of like her as well. So it was really hard to make out which characters were which.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't think Strax and Jenny gets a lot to do in the two-parter. Really, not much that I felt was worthy of them. And I just thought it was a mess.
It was interesting too, because Strax felt like a total buffoon in all three of these stories. And, you know, he's the humor of it. And, you know, he was always, you know, damn you, Moon, you know, that whole thing. And he was always, you know, oh, we'll obliterate it, boy. You know, we'll take care of this, you know. But nothing he did in this worked. Nothing you know, it was crazy. And the security system he created in the Christmas story was funny as heck, you know. And that partly was something that worked really well. So it was just interesting for me to find that, but it didn't work though.
It's easy to lose Strax's heart. You know, if the heart isn't there underlying the buffoonery, all it is slapstick. But you know, you don't really touch on, you know, what makes Strax different is his from other Sontarans is his compassion, which he tries to hide, but it's always it's there, but it wasn't there so much in this one. They just, you know, were kind of relying on gags, and sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't. But, you know, he becomes a caricature if you do that. And I think that's unfortunate because I think he's a great character. And I actually think he and Jenny play really well together. But like Mike said, you don't get enough of them in the last two stories. They're sort of shunted to the side. And it's almost like we already had Vastra sort of losing herself in the last you know, one we listened to. Did we need a recap of that? You know, that's what it felt like. And the voices, I think the voices got to be too much sometimes. Like they went too far. They became too bombastic, or they were just trying to play. They sounded like, you know, a Snidely Whiplash. You know, they were just like, woo, whoa, you know, and it's like, come on.
Well, exactly. I am the ghost. It's like, yeah.
I don't know if it had if this was it had to be a factor, but I don't know if this was a prevailing factor in what that might have been like, might have caused that. But this was recorded during the lockdown, so they weren't together. And I think it's the first time this particular group, when they were doing this, was not together. They were all separate, and usually with Big Finish, they like to record, you know, folks together in the studio, and they didn't have that option. So I think for that, you know, when I learned about that, I was kind of surprised at how well it did come across, because I mean, that's tricky to record as you know, Mike, it's difficult to record everybody on separate tracks and then in different times, and then mix it together so that it seems like people are just in the same room having a conversation. And I think for the most part, Big Finish, and I think we've listened to another one of their adventures that they recorded during the lockdown as well. And I think Big Finish has done a really good job, like masking that, and taking sort of adjusting to that handicap. So I didn't feel like that was too much of disassociation. I think it was just more like the script to me, especially in the second two. The first one, like I said, I think it was just fun, and I really liked the introduction. I think this is the first time we've seen Henry Gordon Jago introduced like in this group, right? We've seen him with River, but not with the Paternoster gang as yet. I know that Strax has had some adventures with them in their set, but he was fine. He sort of clicked with them as well. It was fun to have him in there, and I think he worked really well off all of the characters as well.
No, they all played out well together. There was a familiarity, but especially between Django and Strax, and that's what made it even better because they knew each other. And I liked that, he wasn't the main focus either. He was there as just a supporting character. It wasn't just this story is about, Mr. Django, type thing. And, they tied it into him and the orphans because it was a Christmas story, but it was done very, very well. So
yeah, it felt like a Christmas story. I mean, it felt like a Doctor Who Christmas story. I thought they did a good job with that one. And I mean, it wasn't profound or anything, but it wasn't meant to be. It's just like Mikey G said, it was a fun romp, and it worked well on that level. And I really enjoyed having Jago there. And in fact, it was the other two are kind of jarring after that because it's just a very different tone.
It's because they kept on jumping. Oh, there's a mermaid. Oh, there's a thing without a tongue.
The fawn.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like jumping around, and they didn't know where they were going with it. They knew the end point, but they just didn't know how to get there. And it was just like, nah, I'm thinking, no. It didn't win over for me.
Yeah, they kind of, I think the season, series, whatever, finale, it was just kind of a mess. And I wish, like I said, I think there's some really cool ideas there. But they just didn't integrate them well enough. And some of them did as Mary pointed out, border on repetitive. There were some nice scenes, Vastra and Jenny, sort of confirming their relationship at the end was nice, but then it seemed like it was over and it went on for like another 10 minutes. And I was
that ending, it just went on and on and on.
just when you thought it was done. Nope.
Yeah. I was like, it's funny because when I was listening to the behind the scenes stuff at the end, the bonus material, they don't really spend a lot of time talking about the story and everything about the two-parter. They really more talk about the effects and the music and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't blame you. It's like almost they know that maybe it didn't really work. And I think, I don't know. I mean, we've kind of talked about this with River, in sort of like what, like sort of their, it's not, as good as Big Finish is, ultimately with a lot of these things, they're handicapped because they can't change the characters. They can't have them grow in any sort of significant way. And plus they can't they can't do the reverse. They can't kill anybody off. So, everybody's safe, at least all our main characters anyway. And with no growth, it's really hard to make a compelling story if just every time that goes to the status quo.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
Although I think we've praised this series because despite those handicaps, if you will, they still have managed to produce some really good, interesting, entertaining stories. And unfortunately in this last set, it's that a lot of weight is on the two-parter and it just doesn't fly. Yeah. And that's just unfortunate. I mean, if this was if people are listening to this, and I know we're spoiling it and everything, but if people are listening to this and they haven't heard it, don't start with this one. For God's sake,
the first one's really good. Start with the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was even of the opinion that this series, up until now, was the best Big Finish series I'd ever heard. Like, it just was so good, I think, and consistent in quality and in entertainment. And then they kind of screwed the pooch here, and I was really disappointed in that.
No, agreed. I agreed with that. This was the weakest of the four, and if somebody was going, hey, I want to listen to the Paternoster Gang, I love them on Doctor Who, I'll say start from the beginning. Start
Yeah.
Don't just jump around.
And end with the Christmas episode.
Don't bother with the wrap up. I mean, to be fair, it's hard when you just say to a writer, okay, wrap everything up.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wrap everything up with these threads that are just so loose and we've never really tried to connect them.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that is difficult. I mean, we've seen it so many times. If you're going to do a series, get the same. If you can't get the same writer, get at least the writers on the same page, and have a plan going in. Each one of these sets should have had. Well, I think each one of these sets did have a consistent writer. I think the guy who wrote the Matt Fitton, I think, who wrote the end, the last episode, has written episodes in all of the all of the series. I think all the parts, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So at least they had one person who kind of was aware of it. That said, I will say that Nev, Katrin, and Dan are still incredible. And I love them as characters. I love hearing them interact, whether it's together or teaming up, like separate, whatever. And I just love this series, and I want this to continue. I mean, this came out in October of 2020, so almost 2 years ago.
Yep.
And we had heard nothing about any new ones.
No, there's hasn't been anything. Yeah.
Right. That to me is a crime. I want more Paternoster Gang. I certainly don't want it to end on this note.
It would be a real shame if they don't bring them back, because they are so wonderful together. Their chemistry and their interactions are just so much fun. Even in a weaker story, they're still fun to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And it's fun because the characters know each other so well. The actors know each other so well. And you could tell, if I was doing a scene with Dan Starkey, I'd be laughing my ass off with some of the things he says. And for them not to be cracking up about it and everything, that alone takes a ton of work.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned before bits of dialogue at times, which are my favorite. And I do have a favorite piece of dialogue here. I do believe this is in the second story, towards the end, when Jenny and Strax are sort of being attacked by the trees or whatever. I think Strax says, like, we should retreat. And Jenny says, whatever happened to when in doubt, attack? And Strax's response is, there is no doubt. On this occasion, we are overwhelmed. Like, it's just like, I thought that was clever. Very fun. As has already been pointed out, the two of them are great when you team up together. I think that's the other sad thing, is that we, all three stories really, but I call them two because one was a two-parter, but in all three stories, Vastra's doing her own thing. Like, she's separated from the other two. And I think that's a real shame, and a real, like, they should mix it up on who teams up with who.
I found that interesting. I didn't, now that you said it, it's like, oh crap, that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, they kind of made that a theme because it was, Vastra and Jenny are fighting through the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, in the first story, like, Vastra's there with Alice. And in the second story, she's spending time with, I can't remember the other lady's name, but,
Edith Renner.
Yeah, that sounds right. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's supposed to give some drama to her and Jenny's relationship, maybe, but I just didn't feel.
Yeah, it's fake
really.
drama. It's forced drama.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any difference at the end. It's just like love you, mean it. Okay, bye bye. It's just like
there's no real emotional stakes there.
No, not at all.
It's just a plot device, but they're not. There's nothing underlying it to make you really feel like something is going on.
No,
which I think is a weakness. It is a real weakness of the two-parters. They just lose the emotional underpinning. It just becomes like getting from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. Okay, I got to tie up this in, tie up this in, tie up this in. And I got, unfortunately, a million characters to work with because they keep bringing in characters. And it's like Mikey G said, it just becomes a big mess.
Yeah.
And it
not
just
only do I have
loses-
all the characters from the first part, but now I'm going to introduce or reintroduce Vala. It's like, oh, okay, just pop someone else in there and expect. Oh, and the I don't know what accent that guy was doing, like some European duke or whatever. But I was like,
Yeah, I couldn't figure that out. I'm like, he sort of sounds like the bad Dracula, or
I know, and it was funny as hell because he was supposed to be like the true, ruler, the true heir to the crown of England, and he was just like, where from Transylvania, because they even brought in like with the Brawny Prince and everything from Scotland. It was just like, yeah, no, that is so not a Scottish accent. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I don't. At first, I thought it was Dan Starkey just like having fun, but I was like, no, this is somebody else doing something else. I don't know what. So, I mean, I looked it up, and he's a real guy. Archduke Albert Franz from Vienna, Austria-Hungary. So I guess, that's what they sound like. I don't know. But I didn't get the reference when I was listening to it. And I just thought his involvement in it inserted there just seemed forced and unnecessary. And it didn't feel like it fit with the rest of the tone of the story.
I mean, he was a completely unnecessary character in the story. I mean, he did not need to be there in order to tell the story.
Yeah. Again, interesting thing you could probably do something with, but not played out here.
No, agreed. And that's the interesting thing too, because they threw in too many characters, too many storylines, and it was just like, it was too muddled. I listened to the second one twice, and it still didn't make sense.
Right.
And
it's got a lot of set pieces too, which doesn't help.
No,
they're on a train, and they're in a factory, and then they're at the Paternoster gang's house, and all this other stuff in between. And you're just like, I don't know who's where or what.
Yeah, when you're in audio, I mean, I found that I've had a problem with that with Big Finish before in some of their stories where they put so much in them that you get totally lost, because it's very hard in audio, it's not like in video where if somebody's in a train and then they get off and they're walking through the station and then they're in the street. Well, it's obvious. You can see them. But it's much harder to do in audio, and I think they'd be better off just limiting, the stage. Just have them stay in a place for a while. They don't always have to be running, around from place to place, because it just makes it even more confusing, especially when you have similar voices, which has happened the last couple of times. Also, I think we talked about that in the last one too, which I liked more, but still there were some voices that were a little too similar.
Yeah, I think they need to, really take a page from like a lot of things that are going on now and hire more like different ethnicities, different voices, so that you can really use the audio to tell, and you can really separate the characters. I think that helps instead of having some guy put on some accent that obviously. And I think we've talked about that with some of the other audios. Some of the characters actors are doing these weird, stupid accents, and I'm like, it's hard for me to take this story seriously when this actor is choosing to do this accent.
When you just sound ridiculous.
Exactly. I mean, if it's a light story like the Christmas one, then that's fine. But, if you're trying to wrap up everything in an exciting 2-parter finale, that's not the time.
Yeah.
That's not the time.
If you're doing a villain, you don't have to do this over the top, ridiculous, bombastic voice. That doesn't have to connote a villain.
And that doesn't make an audio adventure either.
But I do think the way it's written, sure, but I do think Nev plays really well. Like when she goes all in and becomes I can't remember the name of the entity. It starts with an A, doesn't it?
Honora,
something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, her voice is chilling.
Yeah,
some of the things that she says, she delivers them in such a way that I'm like, wow, I can picture it in my head, and she's just full blown like evil. She stops short at eating people, so I think that tells us that there's some Vastra still in her. But God help you if you're a canary.
Yeah. Yes. Well, also that was actually just me getting in touch with my dark side thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, really? How many times have we watched that, and something else? Maybe you should have thought of a different solution there.
Yeah. There's better ways to do it, And, overall, if I had to rate this one, I would give it like a 2.5 out of 5. And, I think that's being generous on this. And I think the 2 is coming from the Christmas story, because the other part, no.
I mean, if we're getting around to rating it, I think the Christmas one I'd give it a solid 4 to. The others, yeah, maybe 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably give a 4 to the first one, maybe a 2 to the 2-parter, because it just really falls apart there. Even though there are some good moments in it, and I was fine with the way Nev was doing the voice. I was more thinking of the guy who was doing the side characters.
I don't even know. I couldn't even figure out who that was. And then, the guy who had his tongue cut out, who was moaning all the time, I was like, this is just annoying.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, really? It's an audio, and the guy, you choose a character that has his tongue cut out.
Exactly. I get it from if you're in the writer's room, you're like, oh, that could be fun. Let's do that, right? But then I think you forget that people are going to be listening to this, and when they're listening, 9 times out of 10, they've got their earbuds or their headphones on, so it's going straight to their brain. And if you come up with an obnoxious sound over and over and over again, that just is not a pleasant way to spend an hour.
No, I mean, maybe if it was just once, it would have been okay, but it was over and over again.
Yes. It was to the point where the guy was like mumbling or whatever he was doing. It seemed like he was trying to say something, and there was no payoff. There was no, we never found out what he was trying to say, if he was trying to warn the guy or what, but it was just, it was just awful. Like I said, a mess. But I do want to make sure I make it clear that this set as a whole, Heritage 1 through
4,
3.5.
3 and a quarter.
1 through 3 and 3 and third. Right, exactly. Is so good and so fun, and I think they do a lot of things right that I wish they would do with the River Song series, which is, if you can't use the Doctor, stop talking about the Doctor. If you can't, stop trying to reference stuff, just let them have adventures. I mean, I think the Doctor's name was dropped for the first time in this whole set during the two-parter, which I was like, whoa, that's cool. And it makes it special. It makes it stand out instead. And there was some references to other Doctor Who things. Of course, we have Jago in this one, and some other characters pop up. But for the most part, this series doesn't need any of that. This series these characters are strong enough that they can have adventures on their own, and it still be really exciting and thrilling. And that's what we got for at least three of the sets. Three of the sets here. And I can't recommend them highly enough. I mean, they're just so good. I love the theme, which, as we know, is not always the case. And I think it's perfect. And, listening to this really made me really, want a series with them. A live action series. I don't think we're ever going to get it, but.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why one of the behind the scenes was about the composer, because he does a really good job throughout the whole series. It really adds to it. It's not annoying. It doesn't detract from it. It doesn't become its own thing. It just works really well with the stories.
Very much so. And that's the cool thing about it is, these are characters I love, and I don't want this to be the last thing I see them in or hear them in.
Yeah.
Because I want them back. I want to see what's next for them and what kind of adventures. I would almost love, and this is crazy talk right now, but wouldn't it be kind of neat to see an animated version of them as a spin-off series?
I could totally see them working as an animated series.
I could see that working as well. By the way, Joe Kramer is the music. I just want to make sure we give him a proper shout out, because he does an amazing job. I wish they had hired him for River Song.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. But he also works for other. He's done some other, like he does the Missy series, which is kind of cool. It's making me want to listen to that more. And he works a lot with some of the Jerry Anderson properties, like Thunderbirds and Space 1999 stuff for Big Finish.
Cool.
So.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens with them in the future and, where we go with it. Any final thoughts?
I want to see them cross over with River.
I was about to say the same thing. I really was.
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It would be, yeah. I would love to see River and them have an adventure. Non-Doctor related, of course. But I think that would be an interesting dynamic there for sure. Yeah, I want more. That's the bottom line. I want more Paternoster Gang. Please don't let it end this way. Give us another series. I would love that. I would jump at the chance to participate and write some of this stuff, because it's so inspiring. I love it so much. No, good point. Very good point. Any thoughts with, would you want to see them come back otherwise, other than with River Song? Do you think there's an interest, or I don't even know? Because Big Finish doesn't give like ratings or anything either. No, only they know. I mean, I if I ever see them at another convention or whatever, I'd love to ask them what the possibility is, and certainly tell them I want more. Like, let them know, like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but you need to make more of these. Yeah, exactly. You don't know it, but you do want to do it. You do. Exactly. Damn it, the force isn't working about this. Oh, well, that's a whole different. And the sort of the really saddest thing about this whole thing is that usually, and I think on the other three, usually with Big Finish, I'm able to like be sharp enough and like, if there's a sale, buy Bulkhead or whatever. I realized I didn't have this series when I went to record this. I was like, oh, I guess we got to buy it, and of course I got to pay full price, which is like $25. And I'm like, and after listening to it, I'm like, I'm sorry, this one wasn't worth it. This one wasn't worth it. Yeah. I'm buying it, and I'm sending Big Finish a message to make more, but that's what I'm using my $25 to. Fair enough. And also, I love them because they're a found family. We don't have that a lot.
And there's just something really nice about how all these sort of people who were outliers in society found each other and bonded together. And there's just something very sweet and wonderful about that. And I really hope Big Finish doesn't lose that because they work so well together.
No, agreed. So, hopefully, like we keep on saying, fingers crossed. So that is going to wrap up this episode for tonight. Feedback, of course, is feedback@earthstationwho.com. All right, I've been promising you guys DragonCon news. DragonCon, we will be doing a panel. That's right. Earth Station Who is doing a look back at the 13th Doctor. And we promise, can't guarantee it, but it won't be all Chibnall bashing. I hope.
It'll be 95%.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Either way. We haven't decided.
So we are going to be in the basement of the Hilton in Galleria 7 at 4 p.m. on Friday at DragonCon.
Ooh.
So, try to find us. The usual Brick Tracks room is Galleria 5. We are around the corner from it. So if you get to the Brick Tracks room, keep on walking. Go past the podcasting track like you're going to, Trader Vic's, and we're right on the way to Trader Vic's. You'll see Galleria 7. Hopefully they'll have some.
Well, I'm not going to make it then. If I have to go by Trader Vic's, I'm not going. I'm going to have to take another route because it's going to be too tempting for me to go right into Trader Vic's.
Well, Mikey, be strong, as we like to say. I think you could do it. Maybe, possibly.
Well. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
So, yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun, and we are going to have ribbons to give out while we're there. We have Earth Station Who ribbons that we will be giving out at the panel and throughout the weekend. If you find either myself, Mike, or Mary, we will have some Earth Station Who ribbons and some of the other shows that we are doing. So it should be a ton of fun. And you know what? I think it's just going to be great seeing everyone at DragonCon. And so we are going to be taking a quick break after that. We'll need time to recover, folks. And we are going to be back again in mid-September. We are going to be back on, I think, around the week of, as of right now, we are planning on the week of the 15th of September. And we are going to be doing Tooth and Claw. We're going to be looking at the 10th Doctor era. We have, so it's going to be fun talking about werewolves. So, and taking part and taking place pretty much in the same era as the Paternoster gang. So, pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Ding.
Exactly. So, very interesting stuff. So, definitely check us out. Hope you guys have a great rest of your summer. Thank you for everyone for all your support. We've been getting decent numbers for the live episode we did last time. And you know what? We got some great stuff still planned for you guys coming in 2022. So don't give up on us, as we like to say. On behalf of myself, Mike Faber, Mr. Mike Gordon, thank you as always.
And as always, it's my pleasure.
And Mary Ogle, we will be seeing you at the con. Thank you as always.
Yes, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it.
And how can people find your artwork?
They can find me at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Excellent. Be safe, everybody. Take a nice trip in the TARDIS. And if you're coming to Atlanta for DragonCon, we will see you there. Peace. And we are done. Just be safe. Yay. Yay, everybody.
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.